show on the Salem Radio Network begins in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show begins in 5 seconds.
Morning, glory, America, bonjour, hi, Canada, greetings, everyone in Israel and China who listen. I know I got vast audiences there into every state across the United States. Happy Veterans Day. One of my favorite shows of the year is today. And I'm not just happy because the Browns won yesterday and came back and beat the Bills. And I'm not just happy because Donald Trump is gaining ground and the impeachment is falling apart. I was on Meet the Press yesterday saying not only is there no impeachable offense, there's been no offense at all. And of course, my new column at the Washington Post, which is up right now on the front page, is drawing hundreds of thumbs up comments. They agree with my assessment of why the Senate should just reject any article of impeachment. I'll cover all the headlines, including the upheaval in Bolivia. They've sent a left-winger running. Spain remains deadlocked, violence in Hong Kong, all the headlines. But I stay focused today, most of the day, on the Semper5Fund.org. Beginning this year's Semper Fi Fund show, as I always do, with Wendy Lathine, who has been there for the 15 years I've been talking about, Vice President of Community Outreach, and Karen Hetherington, Case Management Specialist on the other coast. Good morning, ladies. Great to talk to you both. Wendy, just review what the 15 years of the Semper Fi Fund has meant.
Oh, my gosh. It's meant bringing hope, encouragement, and a lifetime of family and support to our wounded, critically ill, and injured service members, Hugh. I mean, we've been there from 2004. We have provided over $210 million in assistance to over 24,000 service members.
It's just a stunning amount. I want everyone to understand as well the integrity of the Semper Fi Fund. A+ rating from Charity Watch, one of two veterans nonprofits that received this honor for 9 consecutive years. 4-star charity rating from Charity Navigator for 9 years. Platinum seal of transparency from GuideStar. Wendy, you just got to be proud of this. This is not only $210 million raised to serve 24,000 service members and their families, but it's also with the greatest amount of transparency and efficiency possible.
It is. We love what we do, and we love the way we do it. We're very proud of our numbers and very proud of the way we serve. It's a wonderful ethos, and how can we not do that for our service members and to be as transparent as possible? And we need to be there for a lifetime, and to do that, we need to be transparent and the best we can be.
Now, I want everyone to know you can call in and make a contribution today that's closed on Monday, but they will be returning calls if you call 1-760-725-3680 today. Or you can go online today, www.semper5fund.org, which I think is the best thing to do. Semper5fund.org has all the information. Or you can do a snail mail address, which I will give to you a little bit later. Karen, tell us how it works. You're the case manager. How does it work? How do we take care of our injured Marines and their other service members?
So, Hugh, it always starts with a one-on-one relationship that we build and develop with the service member. We check in on them regularly. There is one case manager assigned to each service member. She builds their trust. We are there to listen to their needs. We're there to anticipate their needs. That is the hallmark of our assistance, is our one-on-one relationship with each service member. We meet them in the hospitals when they come in on the medevac. We meet their families. We provide bedside assistance for those families who are going to be spending long times, a long stay at the hospital. And we follow that service member long after he's gone through his recovery and returned home and integrated back into his community. We're still providing support for him or her and their families for as long as they need us.
And I want to tell people who are listening today, and many people remember that we always do Semper Fi Fund segments with injured Marines and their care providers throughout the years. We've done it on Veterans Day, and the ask is always the same. Of course, a contribution is great. Recurring support is better. But you can also, Wendy, hold a fundraiser, attend a fundraiser, give via the combined federal campaign. The number is 11459. You can donate a fund. You can do a legacy contribution via planned giving. And you can ask your employer if there are matching funds available. All that is available.
Absolutely. We want everybody out there helping us spread awareness as well. So if holding a fundraiser, talking to people about us, you can help do more than, we definitely need the donations. And right now, double your dollars can be matched dollar for dollar by the Double Down for Veterans campaign.
So you are getting $2 of contribution for every dollar you make. Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation with support from PXG, matching every dollar for dollar donation until December 31st. So don't let the opportunity go by. Karen, we're still having wounded soldiers come back, new wounded cases and new recovering cases. And sometimes even after a period of years, I am sure you get a call from someone who hears about you, even though they've been out of the active duty service, but their injury was not apparent.
This is true. We also take care of invisible wounds. We're there for those who are diagnosed years after they've left the service. We talk to them. We take care of them. We provide a lot of TBI and PTSD support. We can help them get into treatment. We can provide support for that treatment, whether it be gas cards or, we also help out with service dogs, emotional support dogs. We're there to help them with those invisible wounds.
I would say of all the organizations in America that knows PTS, Wendy, you folks have the most experience, and you have, I'm sure, grown in your awareness over the 15 years of the Semper5Fund.org's existence.
We have. We started right from the beginning that we recognized the need to help those with post-traumatic stress. And we have not stopped. And, we're at there are so many more that we're going to need to help. We are now helping our Vietnam veterans with our Lance Corporal Parsons Welcome Home. And what we have seen from that, Hugh, is truly that we are going to need to be there for our veterans, our young men and women today for a lifetime.
That's the takeaway. It's in the first segment. Always go to Semper5Fund.org. They gave everything for us. They're giving everything for us. Their rehabilitations are inspiring, but we need your help. Semper5Fund.org. Wendy and Karen talk to you at the end of the show. Stay tuned. Now, the rest of this program is devoted to, I keep the headlines and the broadcast news going, but I want you to focus on the testimonies. I've got all veterans coming up in the next segment taping. I've taped a few that could only talk to me last week from their hospital bed or from their recovery ward, but I've talked to some that you will just find amazing this morning, and I would encourage you to remember there is a snail mail address for you old-fashioned people out there. 825 College Boulevard, 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMB 609, Peter Mary Baker, PMB 609, Oceanside, California, 92057. That's 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMB 609, Oceanside, California, 92057. Beautiful Oceanside. I love Oceanside. Always find Marines there. But you can also call the Semper Fi Fund number 1-760-725-3680. Office is closed today, but they will be returning your calls. 1-760-725-3680. Now, Veterans Day is one of those funny holidays where a lot of people are not taking a day off. They get the Friday after Thanksgiving off, like we do at the Salem Broadcasting Company. But some of you may have seen Meet the Press yesterday, so I want to just give you a little bit of the Meet the Press panel. Here's my first and declaratory statement on Donald Trump from it, cut number 1.
The people will hear it.
Hugh, I know where you are professionally and personally on this, but it does seem as if congressional Republicans wouldn't mind a sacrificial lamb. And is it going to be Mulvaney or Rudy?
I've read those stories. I imagine it would be Rudy Giuliani. But I'm doing my best to read all the transcripts, and I have enormous respect for the Department of State. People know my son works there, and Mike Pompeo is a good friend of mine. So I'm trying to be very respectful of them. But what I see, I don't see any impeachable offense in the record thus far. I don't even see an offense. I see a back channel that the State Department has hated since Harry Hopkins went to England for FDR in 34 and 40, since Scully was involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis, since Kissinger went to China. The State Department hates back channels. And when they blow up, like Iran-Contra, they blow up badly. But there is nothing illegal. It's a policy dispute. And so we're on the verge of the first partisan impeachment since 1868. And I don't think the American people like this at all. Purely partisan vote in the House. That's what we're going to have.
I think impeachment in 98 was a partisan affair.
But it was bipartisan in the vote to send it, bipartisan in the vote.
Justin Amash voted for it, too, so that would make it...
Not a Republican anymore.
It would make it about as bipartisan as the other.
No, there were 5 members of the Congress, 5 Democrats who voted to impeach President Clinton. Justin Amash will vote to impeach President Trump, but he's not a Republican. So it's not bipartisan. It is a purely partisan witch hunt that is underway in the House of Representatives. I'll keep bringing you updates about that if any occur this morning, but mostly I want you to go to semper5fund.org. When we come back, we're going to talk to Sergeant Tomlinson. Don't go anywhere, America. The Semper Fi Fund Annual Veterans Day show is underway on this live, bringing you the news you need, the analysis you want, and the semper5fund.org Veterans Day special on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt on Veterans Day. Thanks to every one of you who have served or are serving right now. I spend Veterans Day and have for the last 15 years. I make sure you're covered with the news. I know Nigel Farage is causing problems in Great Britain, for example. They're worried about 90 different seats for the Tories. They wish Nigel would just retire and let Boris Johnson win his majority. And I love to talk about the Browns and their epic win over the Bills yesterday, or play in more audio. Maybe I'll play some more audio from Meet the Press down the road. But today is Veterans Day, and I honor the Semper Fi Fund. You can call them today at 760-725-3680. There's no one in the office, but they'll take your call on a machine. They'll return the call tomorrow, or go to semperfifund.org and contribute. Okay, time for Semper Fi Fund guest. Joined now by Sergeant Ben Tomlinson. Sergeant, welcome. Where do I find you this morning?
Jacksonville, Alabama.
Oh, so you've got you had good football all this year, but you're gonna have to run into Ohio State in the postseason, right? Are you a Roll Tide guy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's a sad thing. That's a sad thing. So, tell me, when were you wounded?
May 2011.
And what were the nature of the wounds?
It was a gunshot wound to the neck. Left me paralyzed from the chest down. C6 quadriplegic is my diagnosis.
Now, explain this, because on my notes it says you are a rugby player and a track player.
Well, yeah, wheelchair rugby.
Tell me about it.
It's a lot different than regular rugby. Yeah, it's a lot of people can't really conceptualize how wheelchair players could do rugby, but it's a different game. It's on a basketball court, and it's 4-on-4, and we play in chairs that are made to crash into each other. So it's a lot of banging around.
Now,
the game.
I bet you the Veterans Administration and the Marine Corps do not pay for rugby chairs. Am I right?
Well, actually, I've been able to work the system a little bit.
Oh, so, good for you.
I don't know how often people get rejected, but I've got some good people that I can talk to.
I thought maybe that's where Semper Fi Fund came in for you, Sergeant. How did they help you?
Well, they did. They helped out with the first one I got, so that was huge. That's how I got started playing. So that opened the door for me. But probably the biggest thing they've done for me is help with my vehicle that I had to get converted and adapted so that I could drive after I got injured. This was early on, about a year after I got hurt. So that was a huge move for my independence. And, they made a huge payment on that truck for me. It would have been super expensive without their help. So
how long does one of those adapted trucks last? Is it the same mileage requirements that go for a truck? Because they got to wear out. Everything wears out, right?
Yeah, and actually, the truck I got has had some issues. So it's probably different for everyone, but the computer systems that have to run the truck seem to conflict with the adaptations sometimes, so it's kind of a headache sometimes. But that's something else they've helped me with was getting replacement parts, and had to get a new seat installed in mine at one point. So yeah, that's something else the Semper Fi was always there to help me with.
Well, what I stress, Sergeant Tomlinson, with everyone is the Semper Fi Fund is there for the long haul, and people have to think how long it is. Your recovery has been very good, but you do have a plan, right? What are you looking out at?
Well, right now I'm close to getting my bachelor's degree.
Oh, congratulations!
So hopefully that happens next May. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to go on to my master's or if I'm going to try to start in the job world yet.
And who is your principal caregiver? Who helps you?
Michelle Hall. She's great. She's always reaching out to me, always asking me for anything that I can, anything that she can help me with. And most of the time I usually can't come up with something because they've already set me up so nice.
And what's your career plan? What do you want to do in 5 years? What do you see Sergeant Tomlinson doing?
Well, my degree is going to be in finance, so I'm trying to decide right now whether I want to go into the banking world or whether I want to do something more focused on like personal financial planning or personal investment. So, I'm looking at different options.
I'm sure that anyone who can go down the road you have is going to be a terrific advisor in the financial world. Thank you, Sergeant Tomlinson. Happy Veterans Day to you. And I'm not going to say roll tide, not with the playoffs coming up, but good to have someone from Alabama. Thank you, friend.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Didn't want to taunt the sergeant on Alabama losing to LSU 46-41 on Saturday, but my hat is off to him. The Semper Fi Fund is at semperfifund.org. Come right back, America. More amazing Marine just like that and other service members of Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund helps them all. Stay tuned to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. On this Veterans Day, there's a lot going on around the world. Impeachment continues to rumble on. I made the case yesterday on Meet the Press that there isn't anything impeachable in what's been revealed to date, and it will pick up tomorrow when the government reconvenes. Federal government is off on Veterans Day. I'm not. I know you're not. But I devote every Veterans Day to the Semper Fi Fund, which takes care of America's wounded. And the long war has produced tens of thousands of people who will be recovering for the rest of their lives. And they will be assisted by the Semper Fi Fund. And I'm begging you to simply give a call to Semper Fi Fund, 1-760-725-3680, or go to their website, semperfifund.org, and make a contribution to helping these wounded warriors recover. Corporal Kernan is next time for the Semper Fi Fund. Joined now by Corporal Ben Kiernan. Corporal Kiernan, United States Marine Corps retired. Welcome. Where do we find you this morning?
Good morning, sir. I'm out in Alexandria, Virginia.
Oh, you and I share the Northern Virginia residence. So tell us about when you were wounded.
I was wounded in September of 2010. We were on a dismounted foot patrol in Afghanistan, Sangin, which is in the southern portion in Helmand Province. And dismounted foot patrol, our patrol got ambushed, and an IED went off about 15 to 20 feet away from me. And I ended up being the closest one to survive. Was medevaced out and went through an extensive process with surgeries at Walter Reed, which was then the National Naval Medical Center in Bethesda. And to date, probably about 30 plus surgeries on my right leg, hand, and right arm.
Now, my notes say the most recent surgery was this month or last month, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, it's just, you've been doing this for 9 years. How is the recovery going, especially the recovery from the most recent surgery?
Recovery is going well. It's been a long haul, and have been over the years. I was dealing with a lot of pain. I had what's called a limb salvage, where they decided to keep my leg instead of amputating it when I was first injured. And this past month in October, I finally decided, with the advice of my surgeons and everyone else, to have an elective amputation below the knee on my right leg. And we'll see how that goes, but so far so good.
The prosthetics must be coming. How have the Semper Fi Fund stood with you and helped you through these 9 years, Corporal Kiernan?
They've been fantastic. They provided my family support from the first day I was in the hospital until as recently as this past month, when I was back at Walter Reed for that amputation. They've done everything from when my family first came to Walter Reed in 2010. In September, it was still pretty warm. Summer had not quite gone away yet. So when they packed everything up, they did it in a hurry and packed everything up, came to see me. And it didn't take long before the winter months came in and fall came and started to get pretty chilly. So they were there to provide them everything from sweatshirts and hats and gloves to making sure that they were eating and kind of looking out for them, so that any additional stressors that could come up, they could kind of take care of for them instead of having to deal with them on their own.
Now, you're an amazing testimony, Corporal. Thank you for your service. Thank you for just shining out on how rehabilitation works. 9 years of rehabilitation, and you're still in the middle of it. You just lost your leg below the knee a month ago. How did they stay in touch with you? People want to know how Semper Fi Fund works.
They check in on me periodically and just make sure everything's going well. If I ever needed assistance, they would be more than happy to help me out for anything I would need, whether it's some sort of adjustment in the home or if there was some ambition that I had to go pursue. Most recently, though, the Semper Fi Fund's visiting nurse program. I know it's a newly acquired skill or newly acquired program that they have. They had a nurse that could sit with me and try to help me come up with best courses of action during my recovery and while I was in pain, and trying to come up with ideas and working directly with the surgeons at Walter Reed, to have that nurse there to kind of bounce things off of, as well as kind of break it down and have it to a point where I could understand it. They were there to help me do that. And then with the actual surgery, so once we decided to have the surgery, they were there every step of the way to as far as sitting with my wife, coming the morning of my surgery, coming and sitting with her during the surgery, just so that, take some stress off of her, kind of let her make sure she was eating, make sure she was being taken care of while I was in surgery. And if any questions came up during the surgery, or the nurses were really relaying information back, that nurse was there to really help me or to help my wife understand what was going on in the surgery and try to ease some of that burden off of her.
That is just a great testament. Corporal, what's ahead for you? What do you look down the road and see? We got about a minute left.
Down the road, I hope to get a lot of functionality back, get back to walking, hiking, hunting, fishing, and eventually start running again. So hopefully just to ease some of the pain and bring a lot of functionality back into my life. Corporal
Kiernan, thanks for everything. I hope I see you on the path to Mount Vernon, where I'm out there lumbering. You might mistake me for a bush. I'm pretty slow, but I will look for you out on that running path in Old Town Alexandria all the way to Mount Vernon. Thank you for your service. Thanks for joining me this morning. SemperFiFund.org, America. SemperFiFund.org. Remember, their average overhead is 7%. That's how great they are. They've got all the highest ratings from the charity funds. You can do one-time or recurring support at SemperFiFund.org. The combined federal campaign, if you're a Fed out there listening, their number is 11459, 11459. I can do these inspiring calls all day long. It takes a bit to line them up. I think Lance Corporal Drew is next. Okay, time for Semper Fi Fund. Joined now by Lance Corporal Michael Rayleigh, goes by the name of Drew, United States Marine. Corporal, good to have you. Thank you for joining us. Where do we find you this morning?
Mississippi right now, in Madison, Mississippi.
Now, are you a native of Mississippi?
Oh, yes, sir.
All those years without college football. That's really sad, Drew. I'm glad to find you. Tell us about when you were wounded.
In 2010, I fell from the third story balcony and landed at first.
Oh my gosh!
Concrete. And I was a coma for like 2.5 months, and after that, I was like 1 year of therapy, and got back to Mississippi. So
I've got a dear friend who's a quadriplegic whose family is close to him and takes care of him, but it's an overwhelming prospect. I think your mom's your principal caregiver and helper. Am I right about that?
Yes, sir.
So how has Semper Fi Fund entered into that? How have they helped you out?
Oh, just help them with travel expenses and making her be there for me when I need her. So, but
And specialized equipment's got to be a part of this recovery, Corporal, isn't it, Drew? You've got to have special stuff.
Yes, sir. Just they he helped me connected with the iPad, the iPhone watch, and I have a cushion. It's it treats the it's called like pressure ulcers and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah. So have you stayed in touch with your Marine Corps buddies from the time of the accident?
Some of them. Some.
Because I know Semper Fi Fund goes a long way to keeping people in touch with their Marine Corps family. And have you had 1, 2, 3 caseworkers? How many different people in the course of the Semper Fi Fund care for you?
Lisa Colleen, and she's the champ. She's always there for me, and she's always keep on track.
You know, always. They keep on tracking. Every Marine I talk to always says their caseworker is best, which I think is a good testament to that. But you've inspired me this morning, Corporal. Thank you. Good luck with your continued recovery. I appreciate your taking this time on this Veterans Day to talk to us. God bless and thank you for your service.
All right. Thank you.
More Semper Fi Fund coming up after the break. Remember, semperfifund.org is the best way to give. You can also, however, call them at 1-760-725-3680, and they'll get back to you. They're closed today. I want to also make sure you didn't miss Lindsey Graham on with Fox News yesterday with Maria Bartiromo. Cut number 5, Lindsey Graham.
Well, if the whistleblower comes from the Brennan world, that would be pretty stunning, I think. If the whistleblower had a connection to a Democratic candidate, that would be pretty stunning. So the only way you can fairly deal with this issue is for us to find out who the whistleblower is. No American can be accused of a crime based on an anonymous allegation. The whistleblower is foundational to what they're doing into the House, and the fact that they don't want to call him tells you everything they know, everything you need to know about how valid this effort is to impeach the president. It is impossible.
Lindsey also laid down a marker. Listen carefully. Cut number 7, an important marker.
Yeah, I think the big deal is that Hunter Biden's serving on a board of a gas company that's being investigated by the Ukrainian government. In February, they raid the house of the guy who owns the gas company. Then you see a lot of interaction with Joe Biden calling the president of the Ukraine. Then you see meetings between Hunter Biden's business partner and John Kerry, and all of a sudden the case goes away. I think it's important that we find out what really did happen regarding the firing of the prosecutor and what was the conflict of interest that Hunter Biden had. But back to the whistleblower. It's impossible to bring this case forward, in my view, fairly without us knowing who the whistleblower is and having a chance to cross-examine them about any biases that they may have. So if they don't call the whistleblower in the House, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate.
Got it? Dead on arrival in the Senate. That's exactly what I argue in this morning's Washington Post column over at WashingtonPost.com. Hugh Hewitt. It's got Already got like 2,000 negative comments, but that's because the left fears it. Left is attacking me more than I've ever been attacked in my life because I am I haven't changed. I'm the same guy I was during the campaign of 2016, during the campaign of 2012, during the campaign of 2008. I'll be the same guy in 2020, 2024, 2028. However long God gives me to do this show, I'll be the same guy, a Constitution guy. And there is no grounds to impeach Donald Trump. He has done nothing close to an impeachable offense. I don't even see an offense. As I said on Meet the Press yesterday, I see a back channel, which is always combustible. Coming back with more injured Marines, Semper5Fund.org, Semper5Fund.org. Let me remind you, though, ReliefFactor.com. It's in my hand. It's Veterans Day. I'll be going out for a long run or walk. I did that on Saturday, a little bit sore today, but this is for the temporary support of the minor aches and pains that come with that. And I'm not kidding when I told Sergeant Kieran, Corporal Kieran, I hope I see him out there. There are 4 pills in the ReliefFactor.com package. Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, omega. This is the time of the day when I take all 4 of those because I like to run, and I'm not very fast, but I like to get out there and get the heart rate up. I think it's important as you get old, you got to exercise, and if you exercise, you're not going to get old as fast. And if you exercise, you're going to get sore, and that's where Relief Factor comes in. For the minor aches and pains that plague ordinary living, getting old, exercising, that's ReliefFactor.com. Coming right back with my annual Semper5Fund.org program. I got so many inspiring people to talk to. It's always an amazing day. Don't go anywhere, America. It's Veterans Day. I'm Hugh Hewitt, live on this day when some of you are taking it off, some of you are going to work, but I'm glad you are with me, Hugh Hewitt, on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt on my annual Veterans Day program supporting injured Marine Semper Fi Fund. Go to semper5fund.org. I've got all the information up at hughhewitt.com, or you can call 1-760-725-3680. At the end of my next interview, I'll give you the snail mail address as well, since some of you are old school and just want to send them a check. I think Master Sergeant Nichols is up. Time for Team Semper Fi here. Joined now by Master Sergeant Grady Nichols, United States Marine Corps, John McCain Horsemanship Program. Master Sergeant Nichols, welcome. Good to have you on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
When were you wounded?
09 was one of my first appointment, not my first appointment, my first wound, sir.
And what was the nature of the wound?
It's I had my internals. I had my bladder and a lot of my, how you say it, internal bleeding and problems that happened there.
So a lot of surgery?
Yes, sir. I had 9. Yes, sir.
Oh, my gosh. 9 surgeries. So how has Semper Fi Fund helped you?
In many ways, helped my family financially, and they kind of got me back on my feet with medical care. And now through the Jinx McCain program, got me kind of out of the house and working with horses to build skills up. Worked with animal therapy, I guess you could say.
Well, I always love talking every year on this program with the Marines and the other service members who are in the Jinx McCain Horsemanship Program because it's so unique. Would you tell people how it operates, what you do?
Yes, so John Mayer is the foreman of it. He takes us around to ranches all over the United States. We start off with horse building skills, how to take care of a horse, how to ride horses. We get into roping lessons. We go to the ranches. They teach us sorting. We do cattle drives across of them. Herding, we do branding, basically cowboy workmanship with some of these ranches across the United States, along with up to 50-mile cattle drives through Wyoming. And basically some of them start off in Jackson, Mississippi as a Dixie Challenge, which is like a beginner horsemanship training program for a lot of the soldiers and Marines and veterans out there, just to give them a basic, get their feet wet into horses and cattle.
Now, that's quite a journey from Regimental Combat Team 5 OIF and 2nd Marine Division Forward OEF to being a cowboy. Did you ever, in your imagination, see yourself on a horse?
Not this way, no way at all. Besides John Wayne movies as a kid, this is about as close as I thought I'd ever get to being a real cowboy. I never would have thought this at all.
What is the fun work part distribution of being a cowboy? How much is fun and how much is hard work?
I have to say it's probably all hard work, but because it's so much fun and your adrenaline's going the whole time, and you're having such a blast doing it, I don't think you really notice it at the moment when you're doing it. When you're all over and said and done and you're worn out, laying on the ground from working all day, it sort of catches up with you. But during the moment, it's just a blast.
Now, it says you're married and you have 2 kids. Can they believe Daddy's a cowboy?
Not at all. So they enjoy it every minute of it. They enjoy the pictures and being involved with it, too. We're doing now outside the Jinx McCain or in our own lifestyle. We kind of changed our whole way and kind of bringing the cowboy way of life to our family.
Oh, where are you living now?
I live in Carlsbad, California. I'm originally from Louisiana and moved here. My son just graduated high school here, so we're just staying here in Carlsbad, California until we get him off into college and stuff.
I think they set me up today, Master Sergeant Nichols, because I talked to
earlier.
Alabama and LSU, no Big Ten guys, no one who knows anything about college football. It really upsets me. You're not going to send your son down to Baton Rouge, are you?
I would love to. He's a California kid. He's staying here, but if I could get him to Baton Rouge and get Go Tigers, he would be.
Oh, no, that would be horrible. We'd lose another one to the great SEC propaganda machine. Master Sergeant Nichols, thank you so much for your service, for spending time with us. Semper Fi Fund depends upon testimonies like yours, and I really appreciate your spending time with us.
Thank you for your support. Y'all have a happy holiday, sir.
You too. Thank you. Of course, he's happy. LSU beat Alabama 46-41. Let me give you that snail mail address. If you want to just send a check to the Semper Fi Fund, send it to 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMB 609. Peter Mary Baker. It's one of those Marine things. PMB 609, Oceanside, California 92057. Or call them at 1-760-725-3680. I think the best thing is simply to go to semperfifund.org. In case you missed it, I was on Meet the Press yesterday, and I summed up my view of this impeachment fiasco, the sham shift show trial. I want to close it with that. Cut number one.
The people here. Hugh, I know where you are professionally and personally on this, but it does seem as if congressional Republicans wouldn't mind a sacrificial lamb. And is it going to be Mulvaney or Rudy?
I've read those stories. I imagine it would be Rudy Giuliani. But I'm doing my best to read all the transcripts, and I have enormous respect for the Department of State. People know my son works there, and Mike Pompeo is a good friend of mine. So I'm trying to be very respectful of them. But what I see, I don't see any impeachable offense in the record thus far. I don't even see an offense. I see a back channel that the State Department has hated since Harry Hopkins went to England for FDR in 34 and 40, since Scully was involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis, since Kissinger went to China. The State Department hates back channels. And when they blow up, like Iran-Contra, they blow up badly. But there is nothing illegal. It's a policy dispute. And so we're on the verge of the first partisan impeachment since 1868. And I don't think the American people like this at all. Purely partisan vote in the House. That's what we're going to have.
I think impeachment in 98 was
It is a ridiculous situation that we're in, and the American people don't like it, but they do love the Semper Fi Fund, and I'm coming back on this Veterans Day to appeal to you to go to semperfifund.org and support us. Guys, my clock is frozen. I looked up, I saw Oz. I thought I had time. That's what.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 8 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings, everyone listening. It's Veterans Day 2019, and I always devote Veterans Day to the Semper Fi Fund, the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund. They've got absolutely the best ratings, equal to, there's only one other veterans group, I think it's Fisher House, that has the same 3 completely top-of-the-line ratings by the charity watchdogs because they only have 7% overhead. They've been doing this for, my goodness, 15 years now. They've raised $210 million for 24,000 service members. So I keep my eyes on the news. They've thrown the leftist out of Ecuador. That is terrific. Peter King of New York has announced his retirement. That's not so good, but a lot of Republicans are retiring because they don't like being in the minority. And Hong Kong continues to convulse. We'll cover all of it. I might get a little bit of news in today, but I always like to do on Semper Fi Fund Day is talk to the injured Marines and sailors, soldiers, and airmen as well, for whom the Semper Fi Fund has been a lifesaver. And I ask you to give a call to 1-760-725-3680 or go to semperfifund.org and contribute. And right now I want to go and talk with Major Patrick. Okay, time for Semper Fi Fund. Joined now by Major Patrick Keplinger, United States Marine Corps, Team Semper Fi. Major, welcome. Great to have you on the Hugh Hewitt Show today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Where do we find you on this morning?
Right now, Southern California, in a town called Menifee, California.
Oh, I know Menifee well. A lot of the houses out there were built by clients of mine in the old days. So when were you injured, Major?
So I spent about 16 years in the Marine Corps. I had a few injuries in training. I blew out my knee a few times, my shoulder a few times, and then from Iraq, suffer from PTSD.
And so how is the recovery going?
It's been going good. I talked to folks, and the VA is helping quite a bit. But my dad, who was a Navy FMS corpsman, was one of my closest confidants, and be able to talk to him on daily, weekly basis. I have a long commute, so be able to just decompress with him and share stories. He was in Vietnam, and so that shared bond that we had was very, very good to have throughout these years.
You've had all these surgeries for various injuries. You have PTS, and you're working through that. Has Semper Fi Fund, how have they helped you?
So initially, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I felt completely lost. Like a lack of purpose. I had to hang up my uniform one last time, and my Marines weren't to the left and right of me.
Wow.
And I, jumped into the workforce, and I just felt a little bit isolated and alone. And I wasn't working out or doing physical therapy because of my injuries, and started gaining weight, started to lose a little bit of hope. And I was introduced to the Semper Fi Fund, and they gave me a bike grant. And that bike grant got me a bicycle and some gear, and I started getting on the bike and started moving again, and started to feel a little bit more hope and that I can do this. And I, over the years, had been invited to a couple different events, golfing, the biathlon out on the East Coast, and triathlon camp, and then to the Marine Corps 10Ks back in D.C. And at every event, I met veterans who were just like me, who, kind of lost their sense of purpose, and that were struggling with PTSD and just just having struggles. But when we got together, we all shared that common thread. And I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. And I would come home just with a sense of purpose and renewal. And Semper Fi Fund was there to help me through that process. And if I could just kind of share kind of a little story about this last year. I was mentioning my dad, who's been my closest, therapist with me over the years. Last year, about August of 2018, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Oh, dear.
And I felt like my world just started to crumble down again. And I was fortunate enough to kind of walk him through the last couple months of his life. And, after he passed away, I felt back in that deep depression and really alone. And I got a note from Amanda, one of the Team Semper Fi trainers, saying, hey, let's do a health challenge. And so I signed up for it. And shortly after that, they created this runner battalion with the Team Semper Fi. And I said, I need something to do. I need to get out of this hole that I'm in. And so I signed up for it, and they invited us to allow, one family member. So I called my brother, who lives in Northern California, retired police officer who has PTSD as well, and a Marine. And I said, hey, man, let's do this together. Let's train for this Marine Corps marathon, and let's run it in honor of Dad.
Wow.
And so we started that back in the early part of 2019. And, virtually we were training with the Team Semper Fi and the Semper Fi Fund as a whole. And, we were all accountable online. We followed each other on Facebook through the ups and downs of training for a marathon. And, every day it was getting up out of bed, putting one foot in front of the other, and moving towards that goal of crossing the finish line. And we trained all year long. We were extremely nervous when we arrived in D.C., but we were greeted with the Semper Fi Fund and Team Semper Fi. They gave us hugs and welcomed us. And we got to have kind of this reunion of all these athletes that were coming together to accomplish this mission of the Marine Corps Marathon. And as my brother and I ran, each mile ticked down and ticked down, and we made it. And the marathon is extremely difficult, especially with physical injuries and mental injuries. And we were greeted at the finish line with just hugs and encouragement by the Semper Fi Fund. And the unintended consequences of bringing my brother along and the Semper Fi Fund, helping him through his own recovery, and we just felt like we could do anything.
Wow. That's inspiring, Major. I'm an old marathoner. I haven't run one in 13 years, but I ran the Marine Corps Marathon 6 times. I can't imagine doing it in the middle of injury recovery, PT. I just can't imagine that, except it's the Marines. I wasn't there this year. I was there last year. And when you guys cross the finish line, it's like coming home. It's really inspiring at the Marine Corps Memorial. It
is. It's wonderful to see the Iwo Jima Memorial and just everybody just high-fiving you and giving you hugs. It's truly inspiring.
Well, Major, congratulations on that. And to your brother, too. Pass that along to your wife, Kristen, and your 4 kids as well. Madison, Grace, Caden, Patrick, Quentin Williams, and Grayson Lewis. Congrats to them. Just please don't let them go the SEC route. And I'll talk to you next year. Thank you, Major.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hewitt.
Now, I'm my clock is frozen. I don't know how much time I have here, but I'll run down the details. You can go over to HughHewitt.com, and I've got all the information there, the phone number, the snail mail outreach, everything you need to know. The CFC number is 11459 for the Semper Fi Fund. Just dig deep. They have raised $210 million, and they have served 24,000 service members and thousands of family members in the 15 years of their existence. They have the highest rankings possible from the most respected not-for-profit watchdog groups. And right now, the Double Down for Veterans campaign is on. Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation, with support from PXG, will match every donation you make dollar for dollar, all the way through the end of the year. So please think about that. Also want to sneak in my comment on Meet the Press yesterday because it sums up my view of impeachment. My Washington Post column on impeachment is up at WashingtonPost.com on the front page. But here's what I had to say on the Meet the Press panel yesterday, cut number 1.
the people here. Hugh, I know where you are professionally and personally on this, but it does seem as if congressional Republicans wouldn't mind a sacrificial lamb. And is it going to be Mulvaney or Rudy?
I've read those stories. I imagine it would be Rudy Giuliani. But I'm doing my best to read all the transcripts, and I have enormous respect for the Department of State. People know my son works there, and Mike Pompeo is a good friend of mine. So I'm trying to be very respectful of them. But what I see, I don't see any impeachable offense in the record thus far. I don't even see an offense. I see a back channel that the State Department has hated since Harry Hopkins went to England for FDR in 34 and 40, since Scali was involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis, since Kissinger went to China. The State Department hates back channels. And when they blow up, like Iran-Contra, they blow up badly. But there is nothing illegal. It's a policy dispute. And so we're on the verge of the first partisan impeachment since 1868.
That's what I believe. Stop it. That's what I believe. And Lindsey Graham laid down a marker yesterday on Fox News with Maria Bartiromo, cut number 11.
So if they don't call the whistleblower in the House, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate.
That dead on arrival in the Senate is what it should be. I make that argument on the front page of the Washington Post landing page today. Go to WashingtonPost.com and you'll find it there. And come right back. Semper Fi Fun Day on Veterans Day 2019. Hugh Hewitt live with you. All the news you need, the analysis you must have on a day we celebrate our wounded warriors across the nation and help them recover. Make a donation, dig deep, and come right back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt on Veterans Day 2019. Thank you for listening. It's my annual Semper Fi Fun show. I've got one eye on the news. For example, Nigel Farage just announced in Great Britain that the Brexit Party won't contest 317 seats that the Tories won. That's an enormous sigh of relief, but they should get the heck out of the election completely. The Tories are the Brexit Party. But more on that later. Right now, back to Semper Fi Fun. SemperFiFun.org. You can call them at 760-725-3680. Okay, time. Who's up next on the Semper Fi Fund? Joined now by Corporal Jennifer Prothow. My tongue's getting tied up there, Corporal. Great to have you on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm great. Where do we find you today?
I'm in Katy, Texas.
Oh, goodness, we got a Texan. I hope you're not going to go all. I had a Louisianan and Alabama Marine already. It's making it sound like the USMC is entirely Southern operation.
Yes, pretty much it is. You know, more Texas than anything.
Oh.
If you don't have your passport, you're not from Texas.
Well, welcome. When were you wounded?
2010.
So tell us about your injuries. How's your recovery going?
Well, mainly I suffer from PTSD from some events that happened in the Marine Corps. I struggled for a couple of years after I got out. After I got out, it was really bad. I tried getting a job at U.S. Airways in Maryland, and I really struggled with my PTSD. And I finally just decided, with the help of my mother, to go to the VA and get some help. And they recommended that I go to inpatient treatment, and at the time I really just couldn't afford to do that. But Semper Fi Fund stepped up, and they helped me pay for things that I needed to so I could just kind of focus on getting better. And I spent 8 weeks down in Florida focusing and learning on how to heal and heal myself from that. And then I'm still in therapy now here in Katy.
Now tell me, Corporal Prothow, how did they find you? How did you find Semper Fi Fund?
My mother was really worried, and she was pretty much looking for any and everything that she could find. So I think her and my doctor actually found them. To be honest, I was so out of it, I can't even remember. I just remember talking to the lady from Semper Fi, yeah.
How are you now? What are you doing now?
I through therapy. Let me tell you a little bit. I opened a winery with my mother. While I was in therapy, my doctor was like, one thing that would help you, Jennifer, is to find a hobby. She wanted me to connect with something, and I tried making cakes because my mom was like, well, we don't have a dessert maker in the family anymore, so why don't you try making cakes? And I'm a Marine first and foremost, and I can't cook to save my life.
Yep.
So everything tastes like cornbread, like it was hard. I just felt like I would poison people if I continued to try to make cakes.
Cakes were out.
Yeah, cakes were out. I tried photography, and then that just made me angry because everybody wanted to tell me how to take pictures. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try winemaking because a friend of mine while I was in the Marine Corps was trying to get me into making brewing beer, and I wasn't really a big beer fan. I was more of a wine girl. So I started researching and reading it back when I got in the when I was in the Marines. So when I got out, I kind of went back to it every once in a while, just reading and learning about it. And through therapy, with the help of my parents, I kind of just built up enough courage to actually try to make my own wine.
Good for you. You know, I'm encouraged by this because my notes tell me you've had one surgery, you got another one coming for injuries, and in the middle of this, starting a home business. Have you got a website yet, Corporal?
Yes, sir. IrmaRoseWinery.com.
IrmaRoseWinery.com. I hope people will go and check that out today. Thank you for joining us on Veterans Day, Corporal, and thank you for your service. Continued success in your rehabilitation.
Thank you, sir.
Don't do anything except start your day by going to Semper5Fun.org. All the information is posted at the very top at HughHewitt.com. You can also find all my clips from Meet the Press yesterday. But today is Veterans Day. Reach out and help a wounded warrior. They also have America's Fund, which serves the other branches, but the Semper5Fun.org, 15 years young and doing great work. More Wounded Warriors coming up on this Veterans Day special. I'm live in the studio. It's Hugh Hewitt. Thank you for listening.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's my annual Veterans Day show here on the Hugh Hewitt Show in the ReliefFactor.com studios. Every Veterans Day, I talk with my friends from the Semper Fi Fund at the start, and then I talk with wounded warriors from the Marine Corps mostly, but the other branches as well, because Semper Fi Fund also supports America's fund. And keep one eye on the news. Big news this morning out of Great Britain, for example. Nigel Farage has stood down. He's pulled hundreds of candidates out of the way, strengthening Boris Johnson's hand. He should get completely out because the Tory party is the Brexit party, but it's basically a concession. Nigel's getting out. And I've got a piece over at the Washington Post on why President Trump should not be impeached, but if he is, why the Senate should just reject it, completely out of hand. But let's stay focused on serving the people who have served us. SemperFiFund.org is where you go to contribute, or you can call 760-725-3680, 760-725-3680. Over 15 years, and I've been doing this show for 15 years, the Semper Fi Fund has raised $210 million to serve 24,000 service members. They do it year-round, not one day a year like me. They do it year-round. Hundreds of thousands of family members, and the Double Down Veterans campaign is on. Every dollar you give between now and the end of the year is doubled. And I've been talking to Marines all day long. Let's go talk with Sergeant Sam Floyd. Joined now by Sergeant Sam Floyd, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant, good morning. Where do we find you today?
I'm in Amarillo, Texas, sir.
Okay, another Texan. They are loading me up on Southerners today. They have like one California and all these Texans. When were you injured, Sergeant?
I was deployed to Afghanistan in 2004. So 2004 to 2005.
Okay, and so the nature of your injuries, I believe, are PTS, right?
PTS and TBI, yes, sir.
Okay, and so how has Semper Fi Fund stepped up and helped you?
Well, I'm part of the apprenticeship program is where they've really stepped up and helped me out. What they do is they offer me a skill outside of the Marine Corps, and they've really helped me along. They've given me the proper training. I myself am a coffee roaster. I roast coffee, so I learned that trade. They sent me to the trade some training out in Sandpoint, Idaho. They've hooked me up with a couple mentors to be able to just pick their brains and just learn the whole art of coffee roasting.
I think we've talked before, haven't we?
I don't remember that, sir. I don't believe we have.
Maybe Wendy Lathine told me about it, because coffee roasting is setting off a memory tickle. How is the business going?
It's going okay, sir. Yeah, it's called Operation Coffee. I'm from a little town in Camelsport, Wisconsin, actually. I'm in Amarillo right now for a trade show with the Semper Fi Fund. So I'm not a Southerner, as you.
Oh, thank goodness you're a Big Ten guy. You might know something about football.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I see that you went to University of Michigan.
Yeah, I'm from Ohio. I root for the real club, the Ohio State University. But the Badgers are pretty good. They're not our enemies like that state up north.
Yes, sir. But yes, sir. And so the Operation Coffee business is going pretty well. I started with the whole premise of starting the conversation. So actually, 10% of my proceeds go back to veteran suicide awareness, sir. Because I believe the power in conversation that can happen over a cup of coffee, and cup of coffee is just a vehicle to the conversations that our veterans just so desperately need to have. And not only in the veteran community, but also in the civilian world, because suicide is prevalent in the civilian world as well. I believe sitting down over a cup of coffee can really start the healing. And so that's why I chose coffee, and that's why I actually donate back. I've almost donated $7,000 in my 3 years of existence so far.
Oh, my gosh. Now, what is the website for the coffee roasting?
Yes, sir. OperationCoffee.com.
Oh, that's easy. Even the Steelers fans can remember that. OperationCoffee.com. Now, what I want to stress, because I know one of the majors who's involved with the Invisible Wounds Project for the Air Force, talking about suicide prevention prevents suicide. Am I not right?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And so how reluctant are the people you engage in the conversation to talk about those kinds of thoughts, and how do you get them drawn out? Cup of coffee is a great idea, but that first question's a hard one. I've been doing this for 25 years, and it's still a tough question to ask.
It is, yes. And honestly, sir, that's when I started this business, I was not really sure on the magnitude of that complexity of that question. But I've come to learn that it is a sensitive subject. But if you're open to hearing about it and you share your own story with the person, I've had a lot of inquiries and a lot of emails, letters written to me about their personal struggle with suicide, and so people are more willing to open up to me, which is unusual. I was not expecting that, but which is good. I'm glad that's happening because the conversation is starting then, because it is such a sensitive subject. But I'm not a counselor. I will definitely be there to listen, and I'll direct them in whatever resources that I have, so they get the help that they so desperately are looking for.
I've talked to SemperFiFund.org people for 15 years now on the air on the show, and this is one of the key learning curves for everyone, is how to start that conversation. I think you will inspire people. If someone's driving around listening to this show who's had the darkest of thoughts, Sergeant, what do you tell them?
There's always somebody that wants to help you. There's the Semper Fi Fund. I mean, they've helped me out tremendously, but just your neighbor or your friend that you trust the most, if you think you're alone, you're not. You definitely are not. There's a lot of people waiting with open arms, ready to help you as much as you can. And so it's my job in a way to provide the resources, or not my job, but ours as a veteran community, to provide the resources for people that feel that dark place of just being, they don't think that, obviously if they're at their end of their wits, if they're willing to take their own lives, they feel like there's nothing else they can do, but there always is something else that can be done.
And Sergeant, last question. Thank you for your time, by the way. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your honesty. OperationCoffee.com. To the person who is worried about a loved one who's a veteran, or someone who isn't, but they're worried, what do you urge the loved one to do for the person who's suffering?
The benefit of the Semper Fi Fund is amazing too. I'm going to plug them again because they've helped me so much. Is that if you know of somebody, if you are a loved one that you yourself have a veteran in your life that is struggling, the Semper Fi Fund has resources. Reach out to them via their website, semperfund.org. They have resources there. They will get back to you within, I want to say, 24 hours. Because you got any inquiry, then you can start there. The vet center has really helped me out as well. The local vet centers, or just find somebody. Just find anybody.
Well said. Well said. OperationCoffee.com. Sergeant Sam Floyd, Marine, thank you for joining us on this Veterans Day. Thank you for your encouraging word. I think, hopefully saving a few lives out there today by listening to you. I appreciate it.
Roger that, sir. Thank you so much.
Roger that, sir. I can't get over these Marines and saying sir to me. I'm just a civilian, but I do love helping the Semper Fi Fund. Remember, semper5fund.org. You can call 760-725-3680. I've done this for 15 years. I'm going to keep doing it as long as I'm on the air because, as Wendy Lethine said in the first segment, these wounds, some of them never heal. They just have to be gone through and born, as the sergeant was telling me, and I just hope you will be part of that. Hey, the markets are going to be open today, even though it's Veterans Day. A lot of people have it off. I don't. A lot of people don't, and the markets don't take the day off. And this is brought to you by Birch Gold Group. Remember, Birch Gold is where you go for all your precious metals need. It's where I'll go to buy more precious metals when I want to put some in the safety deposit box. It's where you need to go if you want to put some hard currency into your precious, safety deposit box. Or if you want to move some of your retirement savings, whether it's a 401k or an IRA, you can roll it over into an IRA backed by physical gold and silver. The place to find out how to do this so that you don't get smashed by another downturn like the last one when the S&P dropped 50%. That doesn't happen to gold and silver. It's not a rocket usually. You don't want it to be a rocket, but if hyperinflation comes along, it will be. But it's very solid in times of trouble. And maybe some of you are reaching the age where you just can't ride the roller coaster anymore. Well, that's when you call Birch Gold. You go to HughGold.com, HughGold, HughGold.com. All the information is there. They will send you a 16-page kit to reveal how gold and silver can protect your savings. Move your IRA or 401k out of risky stocks and bonds. Do it legally into a precious metal IRA. Just go to HughGold.com. On Friday, the Dow was up 6, the NASDAQ 40, the S&P 7.5. This morning, everything is red. Again, it's going to be sort of a light day on Wall Street, given that it's Veterans Day, but the S&P's down 11 at this hour, NASDAQ down 36, the Dow down 116. I think comments made by Robert O'Brien in Face the Nation yesterday will persuade people that the trade war may or may not be over anytime soon, only if a good deal is there. Overnight, the Hong Kong index went down 2.5%. That's because of violence in Hong Kong overnight, where a protester was shot by a policeman. Gold right now is at $14.65, and the 10-year Treasury's creeped up to 1.93. Gold at $14.65 simply says this is great entry point. So go to HughGold.com, HughGold.com. Want to play for you another clip from me on Meet the Press yesterday, cut number 2.
I don't think it's the last.
Their problem is that this is something complicated, and it gets more complicated with all the names and faraway events. And here we had, one of the leading Democrats saying, we don't want to talk about quid pro quo anymore. That's too complicated. If that's too complicated, all the rest of it is too. Again, if there's a simple way to dramatize this, where these people sound like soldiers fighting our fight for us and they got undercut, then it'll be different.
But Democrats have to deal with 2,677 pages of testimony to bring that to life. And as a result, they're trying to say, look, we need to change the languaging here because for my cousins in Miami and other places, quid pro quo might be too complicated when you're running to the supermarket or you're going somewhere, rather than saying the president tried to bribe a foreign country to try to get an investigation into Joe Biden. That's an even more simple way that they're basically trying to make their argument.
Is there was no quo. The aid got there. You heard that from
That's the Tom Cole, which is, well, I didn't like any of this, but the aid got there.
But he's there.
I want to pick up on what David said. In the first 2 impeachments, there was a concrete act, a break-in and an affair in the White House with an intern on which you had a date stamp, a time, and the American people understood. Not only is that not here, there is a compelling argument that what the president did is just what other presidents do. And I am persuaded by this. I don't think the Senate, there will be an impeachment. They're going to send an article over, purely partisan vote. I don't think the Senate should take it up. I think they should reject the motion to proceed and never touch it. Otherwise, we will have this done again and again. Secret tryings, secret hearings, ex parte contact, just a bad
Bad precedent. I make this argument at length at WashingtonPost.com in my column this morning. And I'll come back with more Semper Fi Fun show right after the break. SemperFiFun.org, SemperFiFun.org. By the way, their snail mail address is 825 College Boulevard, 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMB 609, Oceanside, California, 92057. Best thing to do is go to SemperFiFun.org. All the information is at HughHewitt.com, as is an ad for Relief Factor. Time of the day that I remind you, if you're one of those people working today on Veterans Day like me and you got that long commute, it won't be as bad today because the traffic will be light. Federal employees are off. But a lot of people work Veterans Day and take the Friday off after Thanksgiving. If you're commuting this morning, don't forget your Relief Factor. If you have the day off and you're going to go work out, walk out, do anything else, don't forget your ReliefFactor.com. All 4 natural supplements that ought to be in your diet every day. Icarian and curcumin, resveratrol, omega, they are all there. You know what excites me about ReliefFactor.com? I think Pete and Seth Talbot are getting ready to do a new operation in the new year that's going to support, among others, the Semper Fi Fund. They're really persuaded, like I am, it's the best charity in America. Semper Fi Fund for serving wounded veterans. Best charity in America for serving wounded veterans. And they do it well, and ReliefFactor.com is going to support them. So you support ReliefFactor.com by joining the hundreds of thousands of people who've tried it, the tens of thousands of people who take it every morning. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America, on this Veterans Day 2019. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Good news out of Great Britain, where Nigel Farage is standing down. Great news out of Ecuador, where the leftist communists has fled and the people have won for their freedom. Hopefully that will come to Venezuela and they'll be inspired. But also, it's Veterans Day, and I spend most of my time talking to wounded warriors from the Long War and how the Semper5Fund.org is helping them. Up next, Sergeant Milan Franklin. Joined now by Sergeant Milan Franklin, United States Marine Corps retired sergeant. Welcome. It's good to have you on this Veterans Day. Where are you today?
Thank you. It's good to be on. I really appreciate it. I'm here in Shelton, Washington.
Oh, you're up way up north on the West Coast. So welcome. Yep. Thank you, and have a great Veterans Day today. Tell me, when were you wounded?
I was wounded October 15, 2011 in Sangin, Afghanistan with 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, Kilo Company.
What was the nature of the injuries?
We were coming back from a night LPOP. It's a listening post, observation post, and it was probably like 7:30 in the morning that we were coming back, and we got forced onto a different route, and I stepped on an IED. So.
How serious are the wounds?
I am a double amputee, left leg below knee, right leg above knee, and about half of my right hand.
Oh my gosh!
But I do pretty well, though. I mean, I work out 5 days a week. I play golf at least once a week, and so.
You are a Purple Heart recipient, but I didn't know why, and so I want you to tell me a little bit about the recovery and how the Semper Fi Fund helped you, because I just think that's amazing that you're out there golfing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, right from the beginning, actually, I hadn't even heard of Semper Fi Fund when I first got injured, but my family, I mean, I'm the youngest of 10. So
what?
My family, yeah.
How many Marines, Milan? How many Marines out of those 10?
I'm the only Marine.
Okay.
we have a couple sailors though.
All right, so tell me more.
So they, my family was coming in, and they kept telling me periodically about, this organization called Semper Fi Fund was flying us out here so that we could see you, and they were covering the costs for them and everything. And I had no idea who they were. I thought it was kind of tied to the Marine Corps in some way, but I mean, they made a point to, get my family out there to see me, especially trying to coordinate 10 different people and families on top of that. It's challenging, and they helped out a ton with that, just right from the get-go.
Because they all want to come at the wrong time, right? And they're not coordinating. Yeah. But the separate 10, I can't imagine 9 siblings. It's problem enough with 2. And so they all want to help, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, and they all have their, about half of them, well, more now, have their own families, and, one of them still actually active duty Navy. But they helped out a ton at the beginning. Sorry about that.
Now, tell me about what your hobby is besides golf. It says you're an artist.
Well, I'm studying to be an artist is the way I like to put it.
Wendy never gives me a wrong lead. It says you're an incredible artist. Where do we get to look at what you do? Is it online anywhere?
I have a couple things up on Instagram. That's really it, though. I don't really post most of the stuff I do because it's just anatomical studies right now. And that actually ties into something that Semper Fi Fund's doing for me right now, actually, is I was talking to my case manager about trying to go to the school in New York. And my GI Bill and voc rehab from the VA, and none of them will help with that because that school hasn't filled out the paperwork to become accredited. So I completely at a loss of how I'm supposed to go to the school, and I'm coming up with a savings plan to make it happen in a few years. And but June Cartmill, my case manager, she said, let me get in touch with our education side, and she's like, they know everything about this stuff. There might be another way you can do it. And so they're going through their education, department right now, like trying to figure out a way that I can use my benefits to go to that school.
Well, that's what amazes me about Semper Fi Fund, Sergeant, is that they figure out a way. I've been talking to them for 15 years. They figure out a way. They're specialists. This is what they do. If the sergeant wants to go to art school in New York, let's get the sergeant to art school in New York. And I just think that may be a Marine Corps thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, they really do completely embody the adapt and overcome mentality. They figure it out, and they June has stayed in contact with me the entire time through my recovery. They got me a track chair a while back, which I didn't even know that they were getting those, but they had some extras, and so she called me. And we have quite a lot of property out here, and I can't really walk on that. But so I literally use that track chair daily. Earlier this year, I even successfully stalked an elk for over a half mile and got a kill this year.
Oh my gosh!
And it was the first elk I've ever got, first time I ever went hunting, and using a track chair, I was able to do that.
Every Marine and other service member I've ever talked to got a track chair. Treats it like their best friend. Now I know your best friend is your wife, but they do. They think their track chair is just their best friend.
Oh, I love that thing. It's great. I've used it for so much, and I use it multiple times a day, just even around our property. So.
Well, I hope you get out there on Veterans Day. Sergeant Milan Franklin, thank you so much for your service and for spreading your word today and talking about the Semper Fi Fund. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Adapt and overcome. That is what the SemperFiFund.org helps every one of their wounded warriors do in the United States Marine Corps, the Army, Navy, Air Force, the United States Marine Corps, and, of course, the Coast Guard. If you've been injured in the long war, Semper Fi Fund is there for you, and they have been for 15 years. Go to SemperFiFund.org and then come right back. Hour number 3 of the special Veterans Day show on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Straight ahead.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 8 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada on this Veterans Day 2019. The biggest news comes from across the pond where Nigel Farage and the Brexit Party have given up. They're letting Boris Johnson lead the way wherever the Tories won. It's actually a concession that they're collapsing, and that's great news. The Tories are surging ahead, Labour very down in the mouth. But today is Veterans Day. It was Remembrance Day in the United Kingdom. Today it is Veterans Day in the United States, and for 15 years I've celebrated by asking you to help the Semper Fi Fund, Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund at semperfifund.org. Help those who have been wounded terribly in the long war make their recovery. And let's get back to that. Captain Barkley is our next one. Time for Semper Fi Fund. Joined now by Captain Jay Barkley, United States Army. And I want to stress that because the semperfifund.org has affiliated funds that they serve all of the services. Captain Barkley, welcome. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for joining me this morning. Where do we find you?
I'm actually out of Houston, Texas. That's where I call home right now.
Now, you haven't become an Astros fan, have you?
You got to. You got to root for the home team. It was a tough loss this year. I thought we had it. But,
well, you got to play. The Indians didn't get to go. And I've got a lot of people in Houston who listen to the show, so I'm actually glad to have a Houston's person on. When were you injured, Captain?
August 19th, 2006. I was in the Korangal Valley, Afghanistan, northern Afghanistan. It's where, I don't know if you've seen Lone Survivor and
yes,
documentary called Restrepo by Sebastian Younger.
Yep.
Who did The Perfect Storm. So we were the unit right before that. So it was my 1-year wedding anniversary. And it's kind of God's way of telling me never forget your wedding anniversary date.
Oh, that's a heck of a reminder.
Yeah, but I was burned 47% of my body. I was in the hospital for the next 2.5 years, where they were doing for 36 surgeries on the different various burns I had.
Were you down in San Antonio, Captain?
Yes, sir. I was down at Brooke Army Medical Center. I think it's called something different now.
But it's the greatest burn center in the world, according to everyone I've talked to.
Phenomenal. They fly a C-17 to Landstuhl, which is basically a traveling hospital plane. They picked me up there, and I was in an induced coma, and I woke up in San Antonio, and my mom was there, and I was like, what are you doing in Afghanistan? But I was in San Antonio.
I hope she could laugh, because that must have been a good sign.
Yeah, it was a long road, 2.5 years of putting Humpty Dumpty back together, but the doctors were phenomenal. Did a great job putting me back together, and I still have, 2 years ago was my last surgery I had. I don't know if I'll get any more. It's kind of like an ongoing process with burns. It's a long play. It's a marathon, not a sprint, where it takes a long time for the skin to mature and develop. But
So Semper Fi Fund has this Allied Fund, America's Fund. How have the funds helped you and your family?
They are an awesome organization. They have taken us under their wing and provided us with a lot of items that I didn't even know about. They came in and redid our backyard and our garage. I didn't apply for it. They found out through a mutual friend that worked for the Semper Fi Fund that, hey, this guy's needing this. And so they surprised me and did it all, and it was unbelievable. And then my caseworker, Meredith Peterson, she does a phenomenal job of, like, if they're providing other service members something and she thinks it might help me, like a TENS machine or a massager or something, she'll get me on the phone and be like, hey, this might help you out with, your sleep or your back or your shoulder. Is this something you'd be interested in? So they're always looking at trying to provide their cases something to help their quality of life.
That is true. Now, the 10th Mountain Division doesn't retire, and I bet you're working at something. What are you doing now in civilian life?
I actually work for a wholesale insurance company called CRC. I work on their marketing and carrier distribution. Because, for me being a father of three, I don't want to be remembered as just this guy that got wounded,
Of course.
I want to be the role model for my kids and have something they can look up to and still provide back to the community and be, give back.
How old are your kids, Captain?
Excuse me. My oldest daughter's 13, and I have a son that's turning 11, and then a 8-year-old daughter.
Well, God bless them and Sierra, your wife.
Yeah,
They've had to walk through a lot with you, and I'm sure the Semper Fi Fund has helped them as well. But I often forget, and I don't like to mention the families are part of the recovery effort, and I guess you could just underscore that for us.
Yeah, they for sure. I mean, my daughter was born 7 days after I was wounded, and so my wife was having to deal with, they induced her because I was wounded, and so she was in a hotel across the street from Brooke Army Medical Center with a newborn child and her husband in ICU.
I cannot even imagine. She's superwoman.
She's the rock of our relationship, and that's for sure. But yeah, they do kind of hang out in the shadows and don't get a lot of the credit that they should. And Semper Fi for sure takes care of them as well. I mean, my kids go to a camp during the summer and get to be around other kids that their dads and moms have gone through similar situations. And being in Houston in a normal community, not around a military environment, my kids don't know anyone else that their dad has done something like that, or been through something like that. And so to go to these events and see other people with, similar backgrounds, and that Semper Fi pulls them together, I think it's an awesome thing that they do.
That's an amazing thing, and so well put. Captain Joe Barkley, thank you. United States Army, retired. Good luck in the insurance brokerage business, and I'll even say go Astros for you. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Captain Barkley is an amazing story. Can you think about his wife, 9 months pregnant when he gets blown up, badly burned in an induced coma, and they have to induce her baby, and she's in a hotel with a newborn, and you know what that's like if you've had a newborn in your life. That's why I urge you to go to Semper Fi Fund right now. 800-520, call 760-725-3680. The office is closed today, Monday, but they'll be returning the calls. 760-725-3680 or semperfifund.org. Their CFC number is 11459 if you're a Combined Federal Campaign person. All right, let me run over. The markets are open on Veterans Day, and the market will open in a little bit here. So let's check on what's going on there. Brought to you by AndrewandTodd.com. Andrew Del Rey, Todd Avakian. Great friends of mine, great friends of the show, great friends of veterans. I think they're the best if you're a veteran and you're looking for a loan out of your house to consolidate, or you're looking for 100% financing on a new home. I think you want to use AndrewandTodd.com. Every veteran who has, and I know them, to buy a house or refinance a house, just tell me they're great service. They take great care of you. You can call them at 888-888-1172 or go online to andrewandtodd.com and just fill out a couple of questions. And Andrew Del Rey and Todd Avakian for veterans, they just bend over backwards. You'll hear from them yourself. Although they got a great team down there. Young men and women, middle-aged men and women, older men and women, people who just take care of you. They lend you the money with Sierra Pacific Mortgage, but AndrewandTodd.com is the place to start. On Friday, the Dow was up 6, the NASDAQ up 40, the S&P up 7. Right now, everything is red this Monday morning. S&P is down 11, the NASDAQ down 34, the Dow is down 112. I think it's because of the violence in Hong Kong overnight. A protester was shot. Thousands are in the streets. The Hong Kong stock market is down almost 3% this morning. The 10-year Treasury is at 1.93, though. It remains a great time to buy a house, a second home, or retirement home. But go to andrewandtodd.com first if you want to hear that. Yesterday saw me on Meet the Press. I want to give the concise summary of what I believe. Cut number 1.
The people will hear it.
Hugh, I know where you are professionally and personally on this, but it does seem as if congressional Republicans wouldn't mind a sacrificial lamb. And is it going to be Mulvaney or Rudy?
I've read those stories. I imagine it would be Rudy Giuliani. But I'm doing my best to read all the transcripts, and I have enormous respect for the Department of State. People know my son works there, and Mike Pompeo is a good friend of mine. So I'm trying to be very respectful of them. But what I see I don't see any impeachable offense in the record thus far. I don't even see an offense. I see a back channel that the State Department has hated since Harry Hopkins went to England for FDR in 34 and 40, since Scully was involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis, since Kissinger went to China. The State Department hates back channels. And when they blow up, like Iran-Contra, they blow up badly. But there is nothing illegal. It's a policy dispute. And so we're on the verge of the first partisan impeachment since 1868. And I don't think the American people like this at all. Purely partisan vote in the House. That's what we're going to have.
I think impeachment in 98 was a partisan affair.
But it was bipartisan in the vote to send it, bipartisan in the vote.
Justin Amash voted for it, too, so that would make it...
Not a Republican anymore.
It would make it about as bipartisan as the other.
No, actually, there were 5 Democrats, 5 Ds that voted to impeach Bill Clinton in the House. Not one R will vote for this charade in the House. But I digress. Semper5fund.org is my focus this morning. Semper5fund.org. I'm coming back with another great interview with another great wounded warrior. Call them during the break at 1-760-725-3680 or go to Semper5fund.org and come right back. Another inspiring story when I return to this Veterans Day 2019 Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt on my annual Veterans Day Semper5Fund.org show. The Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund also has America's Fund, taking care of service members from across the branches, including Petty Officer Thomas Scott. Joined now by Petty Officer Third Class Thomas Scott, representing the Navy today. Hello, Petty Officer Scott. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Where do we find you this morning?
So I'm here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Minnesota area.
Oh, my goodness. I can hear it in your voice. You're a Minnesota guy. I'm on AM 1280 up there. Are you a Vikings fan, Twins fan, the whole 9 yards?
Yeah, I'm all of that. Yes, exactly.
It's a very sad situation when I have to talk to Twins people. Petty Officer Scott, tell us a little bit about when were you injured? I see you're a Navy corpsman.
Yes. So I am a Navy corpsman. So I was injured back in 2010, Marja, Afghanistan. That's when I got injured. So my injury is, of course, I was in an IED blast amputated my right leg below the knee, and then my left leg is a limb salvage. So really, it's really messed up, and they put it back together.
Back together enough that I'm told you spoke at the Marine Corps Marathon this year.
Yeah, back together. And I'm really lucky because I'm able to walk and do pretty much almost able-bodied things. And I'm just fortunate that way.
Now, tell me about your wife. I talked to a Marine in the last segment. Tell me about your wife and your kids and how they've been helped by Semper Fi Fund and you through this process.
Yeah, so my wife, when I was injured, Semper Fi Fund, I didn't really know what was going on at the time, but Semper Fi Fund was able to bring my family from the Midwest to the East Coast to come and see me. And that would have just cost them a lot at the time and Semper Fi Fund was able to do that for me. And I was just surprised to see how fast they were able to come to join me. It just kind of took my mind off of healing and off of like what I had lost, and it was just phenomenal just to see everyone there.
Petty Officer Scott, I got to tell you, people don't know about corpsmen unless they are Navy or Marine Corps people, and I've learned about them over the years. Mm-hmm. But when it says here that the Semper Fi Fund has a corpsman reunion, that's got to be a special time.
Yeah, it was pretty special. It was it was the first of its kind. The idea just came up with when I was with Karen, sitting with her, and she just kind of said, "You know what? We've done some reunions for ICU nurses. It'd be nice if we got some corpsmen together and just bring them together and just have them share war stories and just talk about their experiences and just like what they've gone through and like just the tough duty that corpsmen are responsible for out there in the field and in garrison." So we got together. It was just amazing. Hospital corpsmen, we're out there and we're like the first line of defense. We're the ones that when people get hurt, we're the ones
hold
that
an hour.
Yep.
I go every year to the Angels of the Battlefield benefit because my buddy Mel Spees is on their board, and I'm always amazed by the stories of what you men and women run to when other people are not running towards the wounded. So sometimes you get broken up yourself, and I'm glad to hear that you get back together because that's a unique group of heroes. I know you have the Purple Heart, you received that, but it's just a unique group of heroes. I'm always so moved when they get together, and the corpsmen are always right there. So you're inspiring, and I appreciate your taking the time with us this morning, Petty Officer Scott.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's my pleasure.
Happy Veterans Day. He's an amazing guy, and they're all amazing people. And Semper5Fund.org is where you can help them all. $10, $25, $100, $1,000. Everything is doubled, by the way, until the end of the year because of the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation with support from PXG is matching every dollar for dollar. Remember, Semper Fi Fund is an A+ rating from Charity Watch, 4-star rating from the Charity Navigator. Every group that looks at him says, wow, 7% overhead from the beginning of the fund. They've raised $210 million to serve 24,000 service members and thousands of family members beyond that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The Fetching Mrs. Hewitt and I have been supporters since it got started. I hope you are as well. Semper5Fund.org. I'll be right back. Another great, inspiring story, the news that you need as well, the analysis you must have, all here on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of The Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by No Safe Spaces.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt on this Veterans Day 2019. There is a lot of news. There's been a popular revolution and a coup in Ecuador, so they got rid of the leftist nightmare down there. Maybe that will spread to Venezuela. There has been a killing overnight, or a shooting overnight, in Hong Kong by the police of a protester, and the protests continue there. And this morning, the best news of the day, Nigel Farage is getting out of the way of the Tory party. Not even going to stand candidates in 317 districts. I hope he withdraws from other ones as well, wherever the Tories have a shot at winning in the polling, because a vote for a Brexit party candidate is a vote not to leave the European Union. And Tory party is the Brexit party, so that's great news. But today is Veterans Day, and for 15 years I have been celebrating it with the Semper Fi Fund, the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund. And over the years, you've heard these inspiring stories like you have all morning of wounded Marines, but also airmen, sailors, Coast Guarders, Air Forcemen. They have all been helped by America's fund, but the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund goes by semperfifund.org. They've raised $210 million over their 15 years of existence. Astonishing. It was begun by a handful of Marine Corps wives whose husbands had deployed. They were at Camp Pendleton 15 years ago. And they said, we have to do something for these warriors who are coming home. And boy, have they done something. It's got all the commandants are on the board or board members emeritus. They've got all the commandants' wives. They've got just extraordinary people. They got the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation, along with support from PXG, doubling every contribution you make. So all you have to do is go to semperfifund.org or call them at 760-725-3680. That's 760-725-3680. They will get back to you tomorrow. They have a snail mail address as well, which I'll give you right now. Snail mail is the only way some people still send checks. 825 College Boulevard, Semper Fi Fund. 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102. It's a little bit tricky on the next line. PMB 609, Peter Mary Baker. PMB 609, Oceanside, California, 92057. Know that they've got the A+ rating from Charity Watch, 4-star charity rating from Charity Navigator. Know that they help they provide bedside financial support, caregiver support and retreats, housing assistance, transportation assistance, kids programs. You've heard about their camps, visiting nurse programs, the Jinx McCain, PTS and TBI support, neurofitness, a wellness center, counseling, a horsemanship program. You can help with a one-time donation or recurring support. You can hold a fundraiser. You can attend a fundraiser. Combined federal campaign number is 11459. You can donate a car. They've got a legacy fund if you want to include them in your plan giving. But don't believe me. Believe my last guest from among the ranks of the wounded and recovering, Lance Corporal Dominguez. Joined now by Lance Corporal Matthew David Dominguez, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Dominguez, welcome. Happy Veterans Day to you. Where do we find you today?
I'm out in San Diego, California.
Now you're living in the finest, America's finest city, as Pete Wilson likes to say. So what are the natures of your injuries? When did you suffer them?
My initial injury was in 2007 in El Anbar, Providence, Iraq. I had an open compound fracture to my right leg. I was hit by a roadside bomb on a foot patrol.
And look, it's been a dozen years, but it's a long recovery. I've talked to other people far longer, from people in the first year of the war. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I was having trouble recently with my injury. It's been 12 years. So just within the last month, I've actually went through a below-the-knee amputation.
Oh, that's just, you're the second Marine today who told me after many years of recovery, they opted into the below-the-knee amputation as a means of making a better recovery. Is that the thinking?
Yes, sir.
And how's it going in the recovery since the surgery?
It's going good. The pain that I was having before, I'm not having anymore. I'm having a lot of surgical pain, but, that'll go away. But I'm feeling a lot better than I did, before the surgery.
Well, that's a win. How Semper Fi Fund helped since the surgery?
Semper Fi Fund is helping me with the hotel costs of being out here. I can't even begin to say how much they've helped over the years. When I was first injured, they provided me with a hand cycle so I can get out and be active. They provided me with travel to go back and forth so I can get out here so I can have this surgery.
That's all terrific. How they helped your family. I do like the Marines to talk about the Semper Fi Fund interacts with family members as well as the injured Marine.
They do. They've helped my wife. They gave her, they've sent her to camp to give her caregiver support.
Oh, terrific.
Which, gave her knowledge that we never had before. They send our kids to camp every year, and that helps them learn and grow.
Yep.
And realize that, what's going on, it's okay.
And so how do they stay in touch with you? One caseworker?
Actually, I've got multiple, I guess. I have one caseworker, but the Semper Fi Fund it's like a family. You go to these different events, you talk to one caseworker, you need something, then you talk to your caseworker, and everyone's kind of there. So it's one main caseworker, but it's like a whole family.
That has developed over the years. My audience knows, if they've heard this show before, that it really is a family, and they become a part of it when they support the Semper Fi Fund. But in terms of, I have forgotten to ask, I'm doing this a different way this year for the first time. I've forgotten to ask anyone, so it's kind of fall on you, Lance Corporal Dominguez. I hate red tape. I believe that the Semper Fi Fund has conquered red tape. Is that your experience, that there is no red tape in the Semper Fi Fund world?
Yes, I would definitely say that. Needing the surgery, I was having trouble with my leg, and I talked to my case manager, and I said, look, my leg's having trouble. And she's like, you know what, we got a nurse. And before the end of that day, I got a call, and they actually got me linked out here to San Diego, where I had my initial surgeries, and I didn't have to jump through any hoops.
A visiting nurse? A visiting nurse came to you? See, that is so terrific. And it's also hard to arrange through the VA. That's why they step in, right?
Right. Yeah, the VA it's a long process going through them, and there's a bunch of red tape there.
Well, government is government, but the Semper Fi Fund are the Marines. And Lance Corporal Matthew David Dominguez, thank you for all your service, continued success in your recovery from this most recent surgery, and my best to your wife and your family.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Amazing guy. And, I always have the same reaction during my Semper Fi Fund show. And I talked to Fetching Mrs. Hewitt about it afterwards. I have no problems. You know, I always know that because of just real life around me. I've had a dear friend have a stroke in the last couple of days, had a friend have breast cancer surgery, had another friend lose their father. Just a lot of sorrow in the world. But my problems, which are usually the line is too crowded, or I've missed an airplane, or I went to the wrong airport last week. I've got problems, but they're so minor when you talk to someone who just had to have, after 10 years of being blown up and recovering, just had to elect an amputation. That's the second one this morning that I've talked to, of a wounded Marine who said, okay, enough with this. Get me the prosthetic and let me get back to running and walking. You don't have any problems. You have an obligation, like I do, like everybody listening, an obligation to help these people through semper5fund.org. All of the information is over at hughhewitt.com. I'm not done yet. I'm going to come back one more time with Wendy Lethine and talk about it. But if you haven't been moved thus far, I don't know, you got no heart. These people are out there. They fought for you. They protected you, and this country has been so well protected since 9/11 and at extraordinary cost. Please step up and help those people who are in recovery from their wounds. Semper5fund.org. A couple other points. This is the day that you can look up where No Safe Spaces movie is. NoSafeSpaces.com. I was with Dennis Prager in Tampa Bay on Thursday of last week. The movie's doing very well wherever it's shown. It opens serially. They make more money. They move it to other places. No Safe Spaces movie with Dennis Prager and Adam Carolla. There is terrible, terrible repression of speech on college campuses. Students are lashing out, and provocateurs, against any speaker brave enough to say something that doesn't fit with the hard left agenda. In No Safe Spaces, Dennis Prager and Adam Carolla expose these attacks on free speech and free thought. It began in the universities, but it's spreading to everywhere. When No Safe Spaces opened in Phoenix, Arizona, it promptly became the second best-selling documentary in history. The film has a number of conservative heroes in it, like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and it's rolling out across America in the weeks ahead. You can go to nosafespaces.com to find out exactly where that is. nosafespaces.com. While you're online, go to semper5fund.org. Semper5fund.org. I forgot to mention they are the highest rated. There's one other veterans charity rated like Semper Fi Fund. I think it's Fisher House, and they're a great organization. I never throw shade on any organization. It's just that these charity watchdogs exist for a reason, to make sure that the money that you want to give generously gets to the people you want to give it to. And all the highest ratings go to our friends they got the platinum seal of transparency from GuideStar, the 5 stars, the best rated, because they only have a 7% overhead. So they are the best thing going out there, the very best thing going out there. Want to go back and play for you just a bit of news this morning. Brexit, by the way, looking much better because Boris Johnson is now not running against the Brexit party. Nigel Farage is basically calling it off. His stand down, let's not humiliate him, let him stand down easily, be getting out of the way. Here is Lindsey Graham yesterday on Fox News with Mia Bartiromo. I want you to hear this, cut number 11.
So if they don't call the whistleblower in the House, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate.
All right, play that again. Listen to this.
So if they don't call the whistleblower in the House, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate.
One more time, Lindsey Graham.
So if they don't call the whistleblower in the House, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate.
So they're not going to call the whistleblower in the House. And as a result, it's dead in the Senate. Now, I have written at length in the Washington Post this morning. All I have to do is go to WashingtonPost.com, and I'm sure the applause is resounding through the internet. How many people you got 2,000 comments. I'm sure they're all very favorable of just a roadmap. I went back from last week's column and talked to the former Secretary of the Senate, Kelly Johnston, about how Leader McConnell could shut this down, in effect, a dismissal of all charges on summary judgment motion. Yeah, we watched, we saw there's nothing there, and your due process was terrible. Secret witnesses, secret hearings. Not secret witnesses, secret hearings. There is a secret witness. The ex parte witness is a secret witness. And the ex parte contacts with the secret witness. Yeah, it's just a mess. And Adam Schiff is ruthless, and Nancy Pelosi is ruthless. But ruthless doesn't sell in America. You know what sells in America? Candor, honesty, and transparency, and our veterans. Semper5fund.org. One more segment coming up. Don't go anywhere except to, you're right, relieffactor.com. Got it back. Going to make sure I take it with me to California tomorrow after the show. I take it 3 times. I remind you about it 3 times a day. I take it in the first hour, and I remind everyone a lot of you have a day off today. A lot of teachers are off, schools are off, certainly federal employees are off. Veterans Day is a federal employee. You can go to a cemetery and walk around and salute the fallen, but whatever you do, take Relief Factor at the beginning of the day. Maybe you're going to work and you got that extraordinary commute in front of you that always makes your back hurt. Whatever it is that you are doing, ReliefFactor.com makes it easier to do. Icarian and curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. I take it every morning in the first hour. You hear me do it. Then I remind you, you do not get the benefits of ReliefFactor.com unless you take it. I'm so excited. Pete and Seth Talbot are going to be doing a new deal in January, I think, that's going to support the Semper Fi Fund. Bravo, Pete and Seth. They're already wonderful people, great philanthropists in the Seattle Pacific area. But right now, ReliefFactor.com is what you should try. Come back for the last segment of today's Veterans Day show on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. 15th year I've been doing my Semper Fi Fund Veterans Day show. And Wendy Lathine, one of the people who got the Semper Fi Fund going, always makes it possible. Wendy, thank you. I am wrapping up today as I begin. I do this every year with Wendy Lethine, and I'm always amazed at how they line up for me a dozen people. This was Marine heavy this year. Sometimes it's Army heavy, sometimes it's Navy and Air Force heavy. This was Marine heavy this year. What a great set of heroes, Wendy. Thank you so much.
Oh, you are so welcome. I mean, are our hearts not full listening to these incredible men and women? I mean, America's finest. And we have been given a sacred duty to provide assistance and support to them. And throughout their hospitalization, recovery, and transition, you hear it through their stories.
You know what I heard twice today, Wendy? I don't think I've heard it before. You had two warriors who have had their legs amputated in the last 8 weeks, though they were injured 10 years ago. And you mentioned at the beginning, this is a lifelong commitment our country owes these people. We owe this to them, and Semper Fi Fund is delivering on the bill. And I'm so glad to help you because it's not a one and done, two and done, three and done. It's a lifetime commitment.
It absolutely is. And I do hope that this Veterans Day, those listening will join us in supporting our mission. You know, become part of this wonderful Semper Fi Fund family. You heard it over and over again, what a family we are. We truly are, whether it's the veteran that we're helping or the staff and the volunteers or those that support us. Become part of the Semper Fi Fund family.
And I loved that a number of our guests today, a number of the heroes talked about their family and how the Semper Fi Fund treats the family as the family. I know that just can't be done by the government. That's why semperfifund.org has to exist. I'll give the snail mail address out again for the old-fashioned, but I think the best thing to do is just go to semperfifund.org. And we're doing this differently this year, mixing the live with the pre-recorded. Some of the warriors, we have to talk to the pre-recorded because it's the only time we can talk to them, but it's very inspiring on Veterans Day, and people are going to work this morning, and they might be grumbling about their bad back, but honestly, we have no problems, Wendy. We have no problems.
Nope. You look at this, and it definitely is inspiring. It's motivating, and it makes you want to help even more. I mean, how do we not do what we do after listening to these guys?
You don't have a choice. I'm just thinking about OperationCoffee.com and the number of people who are walking around with dark thoughts and how Semper Fi Fund has saved so many lives and encouraged so many people to be lifesavers in the midst of their recoveries. And the Jinx McCain, the Semper Fi Fund, the Corman reunion, it all is just an amazing collaboration that has served 24,000 service members, thousands and thousands more family members, $210 million raised. I know you never set out to do this, Wendy Lethine, but you've got to be humbled by the people that you've worked with for 15 years.
The best people. We have an amazing staff and volunteers and a board that supports us, and our supporters across the country. We thought, we'd be lucky if we gave out $20,000 to a couple of service members when we started, having no idea that this war, these conflicts would go on so long. And but we are here. We are going to be here for forever, and we need the support.
Semperfifund.org. I'll wrap up here by giving all that. But Wendy, thank you again for organizing this. You do it every year, and it's always amazing. And you do it without complaint about crazy radio stuff. But I really appreciate you and every volunteer and every staff member at Semperfifund.org for what you do for these men and women.
It's our pleasure. And thank you, Hugh. Thank you to all your listeners for being there. And check out our website. And don't forget, the donations will be matched dollar for dollar till the end of the year.
Yeah, double the donation today at semperfifund.org and make your Veterans Day a real celebration of the real meaning of Veterans Day. Thank you, Wendy Lethine.
Thank you.
It is remarkable. They set out to raise $20,000 15 years ago. They raised $210 million, and the need is immense. They've got to take care of these injured Marines, sailors, soldiers, airmen, Coast Guardmen, injured. If they're in the service, they did get taken care of by the Semper Fi Fund. Over at HughHewitt.com, I've posted all the information. I leave it up all day on Veterans Day. Not below it are the links to yesterday's Meet the Press, and the Washington Post column that I wrote yesterday afternoon is up. There's nothing about the Browns. All there is the Semper Fi Fund information, so that you can say to yourself, okay, I'll do it as soon as I get to work. Semperfifund.org. Their phone number is 1-760-725-3680. 1-760-725-3680. I see I've misspelled old school. Snail mail address is where you send your check if you are old school. 825 College Boulevard, 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMD, Peter Mary, that's wrong too, it's PMB, Peter Mary Baker, 609 Oceanside, California, 92057. I'll go into the website and fix that right now on Monday morning. I'll be back tomorrow. Adam, thank you. Ben, thank you. Generalissimo runs this circus every single year and gets all these wonderful people on to deal with me on time and efficiently. Thank you, Wendy Lethane. Thanks all of you who are going to go give or already have given today to the Semper Fi Fund. God bless you, and God bless the American military. I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.